forum of 2 that we're having. The next one will be October 6th down at the Louisville Bar Association. And tonight we're focusing on district court judges. And every Jefferson County judicial seat will be on the ballot this November. Every voter will vote for a judge in each division. The divisions are not based in jurisdiction, which is something a lot of people get confused about with the divisions. So that means if you're arrested, your case is probably going to end up in front of one of these people tonight. So it's a good idea that you get to know who they are. So judges are nonpartisan elected officials, which means voters cannot rely on party lines when they go to the polls. Instead, voters need to have an understanding of the candidate's qualifications and their judicial philosophies. So to help you with that, we're here tonight. I'm Bonnie Jean Feldkamp, the opinion editor for the Louisville Courier-Journal. I will be your moderator. 12 community partners came together to bring you this district court candidate forum, and they are the Courier-Journal, the Louisville Bar Association, League of Women Voters, Legal Aid Society, the Louisville Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc., Charles W. Anderson Jr. Bar Association, the Main Street Association, Simmons College of Kentucky, the Jewish Community Relations Council, National Council of Jewish Women, Louisville Section, Louisville Urban League, Women Lawyers Association of Jefferson County, and we also have Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., Eta Omega Chapter. And they are our timekeepers. Oh, I shouldn't say they, it's not the whole organization, but 2 of their members are here, and they are keeping time for us this evening to keep everybody honest, and that is Dr. Sumaya Sledge and Kira Ferguson. Thank you so much for your help with this, ladies. I really appreciate it. So thank you all for being here. Let's get started. 2 candidates, I'm just gonna hold my notes so I don't get it wrong. So 2 candidates have requested time accommodations due to unavoidable obligations, and we will accommodate those requests. To do that, we will save Division 8 for last, and we will begin with Division 4. All other races will go in sequential order. Each race is allotted 12-minute long segment. Our policy is to not allow representatives or accept statements if a candidate could not attend in person. Each candidate is allowed to give a 1-minute introduction, and then the remaining 10 minutes are reserved for questioning. We will, I should say for questions, it's not in court, so it's not for questioning, right? So I wrote that wrong, but you know what I mean. We will ideally ask 5 questions to each division, so we will ask candidates to be concise with their answers. So thank you very much, and I'm going to exit the stage and have our first division, and I will ask questions. So don't go away if you're live streaming. We're right here, I promise. We'll have these, and that's going to happen never again. Let's see. Here we go. That shouldn't happen now that I'm down here, right? Okay. In Division 4, we have Yvette De La Guardia. I apologize, I should know that. Is your mic on? Let's do a mic test. It should be.
Hello.
Perfect. Since you're the first one, let's do a mic check. And this is Laura Chisholm-Holman. Thank you so much for being here. Hello. So first off, we have 1 minute to introduce yourself. And did we do a coin flip or anything? No? That's Okay, alphabetical order. All right. Perfect. That means Yvette Leopold. Yeah, that's you. You'll go first. 1 minute.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Yvette De La Guardia, and as you know by now, I am a candidate in Jefferson District Court Division 4. I am coming into this race having been a public defender, a proud public defender for almost 7.5 years. I spent the first 4.5 years representing kids in juvenile court, which is part of district court. Kids who were charged with offenses that would be crimes if they were adults, kids who were charged with status offenses like running away from home and truancy in family court, and sadly kids who were being tried as adults in circuit court. After that, I went and did appellate work, so for the last 4.5 years I've been litigating for people who can't afford counsel in the Kentucky Supreme Court and the Kentucky Court of Appeals. I decided to run because we deserve to have compassionate, hardworking people who are knowledgeable and have a different perspective on the bench. I am happy to be here tonight. Thank you all so much for having us. It's so important that you get to know who your judicial candidates are. Everybody's job is going to be to read and interpret the law, but it's important that you know who they are too.
Thank you. Thank you. And 1 minute for Laura Chisholm-Holman, please.
Hello, my name is Laura Holman, and I'm also running in Division 4. I've been an attorney for 22 years, started my career as a prosecutor and victims advocate with the Jefferson County Attorney's Office. I worked for a law firm making court appearances and doing litigation all over the state of Kentucky, and I've had a private practice for the last 5 years doing probate, civil litigation, and guardianship cases. I've done almost everything in district court. I feel very qualified, and I've never run before, but I feel like so many things have happened in our community that we all have to try to make a difference. We all have to do whatever we can, whether that's running for office or volunteer work or just helping your neighbor. We're just in a different environment these last few years than we've ever been in, and I want to make a difference. I want to give back to my community, and that is the reason why I'm running for judge. I thank you for being here today and hearing us.
Thank you both. So our first question. There's a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail and cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
Am I first?
Yes, ma'am.
I think the backlog cases deserve the same amount of attention and diligence as any other case. I think something that could be really beneficial is to hire more qualified and competent folks and pay them what they deserve to be paid. And I really do think it's just that simple.
Thank you. Same question.
I think district court has always been very busy and high volume, but it's even...
I think we need to spread you guys apart. I'm getting feedback big time.
Is that better?
Is that better? Okay, yes, that should be. Or is it me? Is it me? I'll just turn mine off.
That's okay. I think district court has always been very busy and high volume, and it's become worse because of COVID probably. I really think people need to work more hours if that's what is required, and the staff, of course, should be paid overtime to do that. I think we need to work, I'm not a judge right now, I think everyone needs to commit the amount of time it takes to get through the cases. Every case deserves attention. It's important to somebody, and it should be recognized and moved through the system and given the time that it deserves. And if that means working more hours to get it done, I think that needs to happen. Or creating more divisions or having more staff. And if people have to work more hours, they should be paid accordingly for that. But I think we've got to put in the time to get it done.
Me first? Okay. I think the only way to resolve that issue is to be present and to put in the work that job and that service requires. Just like anything, you kind of get what you put into things with district court. There are hardworking judges now that are in district court wanting to make things better, who are volunteering for specialty courts, who are working really hard to make sure that everybody's heard, and we just need more of that mentality, we need more of that energy. And I know that personally, being a public defender, having an insane caseload and going into court every single day, knowing that you're up against the world sometimes, that I'm ready to go into district court day one and manage that kind of volume and manage that kind of a caseload.
As a solo practitioner, I have had so many experiences, unfortunately, with clients that felt like they were rushed through the system and not given the time they deserved, even at the circuit court level, and that should never happen. I hope I would never be a judge that would do that to somebody. It's not a number, it's not just a case number, it's a person, their case matters. I absolutely view it as a full-time job. I think every judge has to take it seriously. Your salary is coming from the taxpayers. You are certainly paid an amount of money that is equivalent to a full-time job, and you need to be treating it as a full-time job. I have never had an opportunity like this before. I take it very seriously.
So the pandemic has taught us that there are alternatives to incarceration. It's no secret, the United States, there is an over-reliance on incarceration. Pretrial detention or sentencing options. We've seen an increase in surety bonds among some of the district court judges, and we Hello? Okay. Yeah, we've just seen that we can shift away from this over-reliance on incarceration and still have a safe community, still have people come and make their court dates, and that it is possible to not have a completely overpopulated pretrial detention center.
I'm not sure that COVID is specifically linked to bail reform, but we clearly need something. We don't need jails overcrowded with people who are not violent. I think those seats need to be reserved, the space needs to be reserved for people who are violent. And we've seen lots of things in the civil arena too, with a lot of Zoom court appearances, and that was done in criminal as well in some cases. And that helps everyone. It's easier to get to court. You don't have to get to court. You don't have to miss work. You don't have to find a ride. I think COVID has taught us a lot about how we can make things more efficient for everyone. Well, if you're an attorney, you might be there all the time anyway, but your client is not, whether your client is in a criminal situation or a civil situation. Some people's jobs are in jeopardy if they have to be at court too many times. And I think COVID has taught us we don't have to be at court for every single thing. And in the domestic violence situation, it's probably much better to appear by Zoom. You don't have to interact with your person that you're afraid of. And I think COVID has taught us maybe we don't have to drag everyone to the courthouse or to the jail every instance.
Thank you. Next question. What other services or specialty courts does district court need to operate both more effectively or more efficiently and more equitably?
I think, I went to law school knowing that I wanted to be a juvenile public defender, knowing that I wanted to represent kids who were being charged with offenses. I think our juvenile court is amazing. The prosecutors and the defense attorneys have a really good working relationship, but I do think that because that is the court that I think has the most potential to make a positive impact, that we could bring in more community stakeholders and service providers to make it an even better specialty court. I can't say enough good things about the things that happen there, but I do think that we could make it even better if we recruited more people to get involved, whether that's through mental health services, substance use services, social workers. They're amazing, we could use more of them, but yeah, juvenile court all the way.
Thank you.
I think the creation of the Veterans Court is a fantastic thing, and I would love to see something similar to address mental illness concerns. It's been said for 20 years since I started my career as a prosecutor that the jailhouse is a revolving door for the mentally ill. We don't help them, we just pick them up and let them out and lock them up and let them out. It doesn't help anyone. We need to help identify what the problem is and help them get what they need, because sometimes medication or other resources that might even be free can be available to these individuals if they just know about it rather than throwing them in jail all the time. So mental illness is something I think needs a lot more attention.
Thank you. This is your last question. What should judges do to make sure they don't work in such a bubble that they lose sight of the needs of the community?
They should be in the community. Something that I'm so proud of about my campaign is that we are just a small group, a grassroots campaign, and we've made it a point to just get out and meet as many people all across the city as possible, and people are receptive. People want to know who their judges are. I know that we all talk about how difficult it is to get engaged in judicial races because they're nonpartisan, and you're not allowed to talk about how you would rule in cases because of the Judicial Code of Conduct, but when you explain that to people, and that transparency, they see that you're being transparent and they feel like they're making a connection with you, it goes a long way, and they're excited and they want to get engaged and they want to be involved. So judges have to be in the community. They need to be in schools, they need to be at parks, they need to be at community events. They need to be part of the community that they serve.
Thank you.
I think judges need to be, I agree with that, they need to be part of the community and they need to be aware of the community and what's going on in the community. Campaigning is very hard. I have never done this before, but one of the things I'm grateful for, even though it's a really hard process, is all the people that I have met and all the things I have learned that I did not know. Some issues are obvious. I knew them before I got in the race. Other issues I had no idea, and I'm so grateful to know them because if I'm a judge, I'll be a better judge for knowing them. And I think you don't quit doing that on November the 9th. You have to keep learning what the issues are and let people know you really care about them.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Again, Division 4 and Yvette De La Guardia and Laura Chisholm-Holman, thank you so much. Hopefully we have worked out all of our technology issues with the first section, so thank you very much for going first. And now Division 1 is coming up to the stage, and we have Anthony Jones and we have Emily Monarch. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. I'm going to try and stand in the aisle because I think it helps that my mic is not as close to you, so I'm going to feel a little bit like Dr. Phil here, but that's okay. So let's start off with alphabetical order. So Anthony Jones, you will start us off with a 1-minute introduction.
I'm very bad with microphones. Okay. My name is Anthony Jones. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a career public servant. I started my career about a decade ago as a public defender. There, I did everything in district court. I was in district court criminal for adults, I was in juvenile court, and I was in circuit court. And I learned a lot. I did everything from detention hearings with juveniles to a murder trial. Presently, I'm at the county attorney's office where I'm a supervising attorney. I've been there for 6 years, and it's my responsibility to oversee those cases. I'm in court, district court, 6 hours a day, every day. I oversee about 1,000 criminal prosecutions every week, and I've done everything in between, from disorderly conducts to murder PC hearings, from speeding to adult exploitation. Through this grind, I've seen it from both sides. I've been trained to see cases from both sides. I care tremendously about this community. I want to do my best. My name is Anthony Jones. I'm endorsed by Citizens for Better Judges, and hopefully in November I'll be endorsed by the citizens of Jefferson County.
Thank you very much. Emily Monarch, 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Emily Corfidge Monarch, and I want to be your next District Court Division 1 judge. I believe that I have the experience, competence, and judicial temperament to bring real-world perspective to Division 1. Number one is my experience. I've been an attorney for 20 years. In that time, I've practiced about 6 areas of the law. For the last 7 years, I have run my own elder law firm. So not only was I a business owner, but I was also an attorney. I worked with families when they needed long-term care for their parent, and I also did probate, which is both in district court. Number two, competence. I finished second in my class at law school. That's not important, except that they throw a lot of information at you in law school and you're expected to apply the law fairly and competently very quickly, and I can do that. Third, I'm a mom of 3. What that means is whether you've got a toddler or a teenager, you always have to balance safety and second chances along with consequences.
Wonderful, thank you. Did your mic cut out there at the end?
It did. I thought
Okay,
you were
there, you're
drumming
back.
me off.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I apologize for that. We are going to start with you for the first question. This time, I'm going to bounce it back and forth and do a better job here. And this time, we're going to start with what has the COVID-19 pandemic taught us is possible with bail reform?
I'm sorry, what has it taught us in regards to bail reform?
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. I think it's actually a wonderful example of what can be done when we look at a pretrial release situation, which is what we're really talking about. When we use the term bail reform, we're talking about letting people out before they've had a trial and before they've had an opportunity for the evidence against them to be presented fully. So I think it taught us that there are a lot of situations where people can safely return to the community, which protects jobs, it protects children, it protects housing, and all of those things are really important, and they do work, and I believe it's taught us a lot about bail reform.
Wonderful, thank you.
I was there during COVID. I've been there for 6 years. And it's not just COVID that made a big change in regard to this. It's the fact of these staffing shortages, and that doesn't get talked about enough in the community. What we need to understand is we are down prosecutors, police, jailers, social workers, public defenders, and we need to replace them. That, coupled with COVID, has taught us one thing. We need to look at the bail system a little more in depth. At our office, we were getting lists during COVID, lists of people in the jail, because I believe the capacity is around 1,200 people. At some points, we were at 1,400, 1,500 people. So our office was going through these lists, and we were looking at people with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that they could go, if they could get out safely. We did that, I participated in that. Really, at the end of the day, the question is, are they dangerous? If they're dangerous, they deserve the high bond. If they're not, we deserve to do something else, whether it's a surety bond, unsecured, ROR with non-financial conditions.
Thank you. Now we're going to start with you for the next question, and it's going to be, there's a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail in cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
I'm really proud of everybody in the court system, the defense attorneys that are here, the judges that are here, the prosecutors that are here. We all came together during COVID. It was unprecedented. We had to completely change our system. We didn't have Zoom really available to us. We started utilizing that almost immediately. That was great. That helped people out. That made sure that everybody was safe, and that gave everybody an option to be in court. In addition, the county attorney's office, in conjunction with the judges, in conjunction with the public defense office, we went through all thousands and thousands of cases. While everybody else was out at home, we were in the building grabbing the cases off of the clerk's shelves and doing the work with yellow sheets, which is, we said priority date, non-priority date. We made sure if the case needed to be heard, we'd get it heard. If it didn't, we pushed it back. And we've worked our way through that. And it's really something all of us should be proud of, and we should continue to work together like we did then.
Thank you. Ms. Monarch.
Yes. First of all, we need to be aware that there is a major staffing shortage within the clerk's office. I believe Jefferson County, at last count, is down about 60 clerks. I think one of the best things we can do to end that shortage is for our legislator to give those people a raise and to actively recruit high talent and give people a chance to make this a real career like it used to be. I think that's the number one thing. Number two, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court just announced that they're going to do mandatory e-filing in a certain class of cases. I think the more e-filing we can do, the more that frees up our clerks to work on other things. The third thing I think we need to do is we need to make access easier for people who don't have attorneys to understand what the forms look like and the process looks like so they can easily get through the system.
Thank you. We'll start this next question with you. What would you change, if anything, about the role of a district court judge?
So I think in Jefferson County, the role of a district court judge is very different than in other counties. I am fortunate in that my practice does not belong just in Jefferson County. I've practiced in Bullitt, Spencer, Shelby, Taylor, and I've seen a lot of different district court judges do it a lot of different ways. And there are more than one way to do it, and I think sometimes in Jefferson County we get stuck on that's not how we do it in Jefferson County. Things are different in Jefferson County, but I think we can learn a lot from our friends across the state that may handle the entire docket. So I think we can look around and really look at our colleagues and see what things we can do to improve how we do things.
Thank you. Anthony Jones?
Golly. You know, when you're a circuit court judge, you'll get offers that are, say, 5 years and no stand on probation. Or we recommend probation, we oppose probation. And then the judge makes that determination, and the judge puts terms on that probation. In district court, it happens a little bit differently. Usually the offers involve conditional discharge. That's unsupervised probation in essence. And the judges don't have as much control over that conditional discharge. Yet these judges have seen a lot of things. They are very experienced. We are very experienced. So I just think that maybe we should make the expectation in court that we start looking more into services as a term of conditional discharge to move the city forward and to get the defendants the help that they need to make this city a safer place and a better place for all of us to live.
Thank you. Next question will go back to you. What should judges do to make sure that they don't work in such a bubble they lose sight of the needs of the community? Oh. What in the world? Again. This has been a wonderful microphone evening.
There you go. Can you repeat the question to me one more time, too?
Sure. What should judges do to make sure they don't work in such a bubble that they lose sight of the needs of the community?
Okay, so I believe Yvette said it, Ms. Holman said it. We stay out in the community, but not just the community that you're comfortable with. If you live on the East End, you shouldn't just stay out in the parks in the East End. If you live in the South End, you shouldn't just stay out at the churches in the South End. We need to go all over. We need to go to the West. We need to go to the East. We need to go to the North. We need to go to the South. We need to understand how people within the community feel, and not everybody in the community feels the same way. In fact, not each region feels the same way. I mean, each region looks at things differently. We need to understand every individual is different. We need to see what their troubles are. We need to understand what dangers they see out there, and we need to adjust accordingly based on the full set of the community, not just our little compartmentalized society.
All right, so I am not a district court insider, and I've gotten a little pushback from that I don't spend my whole day every day in district court. But what I do every day is I sit across from clients every day, and I understand that those clients many of them have never had to go to court before. And that real world perspective that I have, that's something that you can't get if you spend all day on the same group of cases with the same group of people. I think there's also concern that, you know, when you work together with the same people, the same prosecutor, the same judge, the same police officer every day, we get comfortable and we forget that we all have different jobs to do, and part of our job is to hold each other accountable for that role we're supposed to be in. And so I think turnover is important. To our Central High School students, be bold and be brave and stand up and run even if you're not an insider, because sometimes you can win.
All right, we're down to 2 minutes to make these quick answers. What other services or specialty courts does district court need to operate both more efficiently and equitably?
Okay, number one, social workers and more social workers. I think the entire Kentucky system needs a whole lot more social workers. Guardianship court, I see this all the time where we don't have enough social workers to Thank you. We don't have enough social workers to help us address the non-judicial problems that people are facing. I think the other thing we can do is we can make the court easier to access for people without attorneys. Some of the forms could be easier. I think there could be a stronger partnership with legal aid and also with the law school and student practitioners to help unrepresented people understand some of the processes in district court.
Y'all, all right. We've got some real programs in this community. We just need to know about them and utilize them. We've got restorative justice. It's back again. All right. Well, we've got restorative justice. That's through America. We've got Ignite through Goodwill. In particular, restorative justice, the whole goal is,
The only problem is the line takes long.
okay. Here, we'll try this. If this one doesn't work, I quit. All right. I'm going to hold it like Bob Barker. Restorative justice, that's where I was. Restorative justice, the whole goal of it is to make everybody whole, right? So you have a victim out there, you have a defendant. You want to bring those two individuals together. You want to ensure that the defendant ends up seeing how the harm they did on the victim affected them. And then you want the victim to feel restored. That's a beautiful thing. And it takes it outside of the criminal system. it takes it to a more human level where people are learning from each other and people start to feel like the system is working for them. Ignite will let children, usually children, young adults, go into a program where we can get them housing vouchers, we can get them TARP passes, we can get them job employment opportunities at KCTC, and we can put them on the right path if we catch it early enough. These are programs that aren't utilized enough. These are programs that, well, restorative justice that I've done the pilot project on. These are programs that I do, that I understand, and that I'm excited about sharing with the community. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I feel like this has been like the universe's little quiz for judicial temperament. Thank you so much. Again, that's Division 1, Anthony Jones and Emily Courier-Monarch. I'm sorry I did not say your full name to begin with. And coming onto the stage to try their luck with the microphones is Division 3. And we have Kelly Ann Bowles and Christine Garvey. Thank you so much. And we will try very hard to keep the technology working. So you each have 1 minute. Let me look and do my alphabet stuff. That Kelly Ann Bowles will be the first for her minute to introduce herself.
Okay. I am Kelly Bowles. I'm running for District Court Division 3. I have been an attorney for 10 years in good standing with the Kentucky Bar Association. I am endorsed right now by UAW Teamsters, Better Schools, as well as LSearch. And I am a member of the JCTA, as I'm a current teacher with JCPS. I am running because I have a unique set of credentials. I practiced in personal injury, medical malpractice, and employment discrimination. I've been on the front line of our community, working with families facing the challenges of mental illness, addiction, poverty, and homelessness. Through my work history, I've learned to truly honor diversity within our community, a community in which my school alone speaks 65 heritage languages. If elected, I promise to treat each person that comes before the bench with respect and dignity as people and constituents first. As a judge on the People's Court, you work for the people of Jefferson County, and if elected, I will work hard to make sure the people before me feel heard and understood with compassion and empathy.
Thank you. And yes, I'm sorry, Christine Garvey. Go ahead. You're the 1 minute.
Yes. Good evening. First of all, thank you, all of you who have come tonight. We appreciate you being here. My name is Judge Christina Garvey, and I am running to keep my seat as the Division 3 District Court Judge. Before I was elected in 2018, I was a prosecutor with the County Attorney's Office. I started out in the General Criminal Division and then was promoted into the Domestic Violence Unit. I have handled thousands of cases in our district courts. I have experience at the trial. I have trial experience as both a sitting judge and a practicing attorney. I've also held hearings in every single court that we offer in the divisions of district courts. During COVID, we all had the opportunity to sit in all of our courts. I know a lot of people don't realize how many things we cover, but I've had the opportunity to do that. I have the experience in district court that the position deserves, and that's why I'm asking for your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will start the first question with you. And some in the legal community perceive district court as being part-time, court only being held in the morning or in the afternoon. How can the perception that being a district court judge is part-time position be resolved?
Sure. So I think a lot of perception, I think, with any job is what people see or hear and not what they know. And so I can tell you what I do every day is I show up to work every day. We have dockets that are scheduled at 9 a.m. and at 1. Depending on what docket you are covering, like this morning we had a trial set at 9 a.m. I had a full docket going on at 1 o'clock. In between that, I was doing search warrants and helping with some of the on-call stuff as one of our other judges was slammed in our evictions court. So as far as what perception is, we have things scheduled as often as people need them scheduled. We set things in the afternoon, we set things in the morning. Part of that is what people have already mentioned now is we are not the only people running the justice system. We have an entire group of justice partners that all have to be available and all have to be able to contribute in order for the justice system to run. And so in trying to schedule things, having such shortage at the clerk's office, at the PD's office, at the county attorney's, it makes it difficult. And the last thing that we're trying to do is put more work on top of the attorneys who are already running around like wild people trying to get everything done. And so we need more people. We need better pay at these positions for our clerks, for our PDs, for our county attorneys. And we've got to have people in there in order to do these jobs so that we can run as a whole.
Thank you. Kellyanne Bowles.
Okay. I have been told by a long time ago, my dad, that a profession, the difference between a profession and a job is that a profession doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. A profession is something that is eternal, that drives you day in, day out, and makes you want to work beyond those hours. My dad was a teacher. I obviously have teacher in my bones as I'm currently one, but my job doesn't stop at 3:45. That's just when the students are there, right? So I have to work. I work and prepare for the next day, every day past then. In the courtroom, it's not only when you have people scheduled on the dockets, it's also all of the work that goes into being a judge in the community, to being out there and advocating for rules and procedures that make sense, whether it requires you to go to Frankfurt or to Metro Council, when it requires you to volunteer for the specialty courts, to be on those committees. And it's not something that you just clock in and clock out at your own job when it is those times. So perception, prove them wrong by being there and letting them see you do the work.
Thank you. Now the next question, we'll start with you. So there's a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail and cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
One of the things that when I've been talking to people has been that we need to, as judges, we need to inquire further into why someone wants to pass a case. Why are we continuing this? To ask the hard questions, to get the case moving, to set deadlines and hold to them. Additionally, to provide other opportunities to try to get things scheduled, to work around whether we can do Zoom or whether we can move things around to better get people in faster. Additionally, when you are on these specialty courts, when you have a docket that's set, well, let's make sure it actually moves through. I've sat in the courtroom very recently and seen things take forever as you're just slogging through cases. But holding everyone in the court system accountable, whether it is a clerk or the attorneys in front of you or your fellow judges, we have to call each other out and make sure that we're all working as hard as possible. And always having an increase in pay, just like we do with all of these other positions. There's a work shortage. Let's increase the pay, provide some incentives.
Thank you. Judge Garvey?
Sure. I am in the courthouse every single day. I have been there as a practicing attorney. I have been there as a judge. There is a million reasons why cases aren't moving forward. Sometimes it is to the benefit of one side or the other. Sometimes it is because unavailability of witnesses. Sometimes it's because you're waiting on labs to get back from KSP. Sometimes it is because you are waiting for results on anything as far as what could be happening. I will tell you, and I would bet any prosecutor or defense attorney would tell you, I have my handwriting on more cases that say set or settle in all caps with an exclamation point in my courtroom on a regular basis. And when you understand the case and you understand the courtroom and you understand how cases work and how they get resolved, you can have an educated opinion as to how soon something should be resolved or where we should be going. But there's a lot of other things that go into resolving a case, and a lot of times it's also trusting the attorneys, both the prosecutors and the defense attorneys, that they are doing their job best to move the case along that is in the best interest of whatever side that they're working on. And so having that relationship with the attorneys and knowing those attorneys and their work ethic and what they do and what they put in, things don't always move along quickly in the court system because there's really serious things happening in court that affect people in their lives and what they're doing. And so taking time to listen to everybody involved, to figure out what's going on, and not trying to rush through a docket is important so that everybody has a chance to be heard no matter what relationship they have with that case, whether they're the victim, the defendant, a mom that wants to talk to their attorney. Everybody needs to take time so that these things are handled in a professional manner and that every case is being heard to the fullest.
Thank you. The next question will start with you, and that is, what has COVID-19 pandemic taught us is possible with bail reform?
I don't know that I would put hand in hand. I don't know if it was Mr. Jones that said that as far as bail reform. I think that recognizing what my job as a sitting judge is to take every person that comes before me, to use the factors that the statute gives me in order to make an educated decision as to someone's bail. If we want to talk about bail reform, I think that there is always room for improvement no matter what our statutes read. And, you know, I am excited to hear what the legislature might have to do. I am in charge of setting bails. The bail system that we have right now is a cash bail system. I think if we want to talk about something that people became more aware of during the pandemic, were the options that we do have to ensure that somebody comes back to court. Those are things that I've been using since the day I took the bench. We have surety bonds, we have unsecured bonds, we have organizations that have helped as far as not only helping to post bonds for people, but also to ensure that they get back to court. We have systems in place as far as sending out messages so that we ensure that people come back to court. When you are looking at making a decision on bail as a sitting judge, my job is to use the system that we have. It's what I swore to do, is to follow the law. And so I use the factors that the statute gives me to determine whether or not I think somebody is a danger or a flight risk. And I do the best job that I can to make a decision using the tools that I have and utilizing those tools such as surety bonds, such as HIP, such as unsecured, secured, partially secured. Using those options, not everything has to be a cash bond when we set them, and we already have that system in place now. I absolutely think it can be better, but that's not what I am elected to do right now.
Thank you.
Absolutely. If I was elected, I would enforce the law as is. However, there is also room to continue to work with those people, those legislators who are changing those laws or updating those laws to understand better how the system could work better, because the legislators aren't in the courtroom. The legislators don't know how it really affects the day-to-day. And so making sure that we are in Frankfurt, that we are actually putting forth some information, and therefore I think the bail system is broken. I think we need to work to change it to a system like the federal system where we are releasing, detaining, or releasing with conditions. I think we need to be using home incarceration, especially for nonviolent offenders. I do not think risk of flight should be on an equal basis with danger to the community. Danger to the community, we need to incarcerate until trial. But flight risk is not on par with that, and I don't think they can be equitable.
Thank you so much. The Division 3 candidates, and this is Kelly Ann Bowles and Judge Christine Garvey, thank you so much. We have Division number 6 will be coming up to the stage next. Let's see. And I think the mic's held up that time, so maybe we are over the hurdle. We'll see. Thank you. And I just want to remind everyone who is watching the live stream that it's important that we know who our judicial candidates are, because this is a nonpartisan race, so you cannot rely on party lines to get you through. So thank you very much. Do I have that? Did I say your name? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. How did I do that wrong? I said Christina Garvey. I should know that. I apologize, but Division 6, welcome. We have Justin Brown and Lisa Langford. Thank you so much for being here, and alphabetical order says that Justin Brown, you will introduce yourself first. You have 1 minute, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Brown, and I am running for District Court, Judge Division number 6. Folks, I'm a trial attorney. That's what I do. I've been an attorney for 18 and a half years, from District Court to Circuit Court to Federal Court. And that's important, because right now we don't have enough trial attorneys on the bench. The distinction between of being a trial attorney matters, because I've made my career upon knowing the law, understanding the law, and being able to apply the law. That's how we protect this community. Elect judges that know the law, understand the law, and can apply the law. Experience matters, being in court matters, having stood next to a client and argued to save their very life, as I have done on 4 death penalty cases, that matters. Justin Brown matters for this community.
Thank you. Lisa Langford, you have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Judge Lisa L. Langford. I am your current District Court Judge in Division 6, and I thank you so much for electing me in 2018. I enjoy my job very much. I am in court every day. I also was a prosecutor for 14 years prior to becoming a judge. I was a trial attorney. I also worked in our civil division, and it gave me all of the experience that I needed to become your district court judge. I would like to say that I made the promises that I would make everyone who came in my courtroom feel welcome, feel safe, and that I would treat everyone fairly and with respect and dignity. I support diversion and inclusion, and I ran on those factors last time, and that is still the way that I will be running today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll start our first question with you. And what do you feel that the COVID pandemic has taught us is possible with bail reform?
Thank you very much. And having heard the other answers that have been given, I believe the way the question has come is due to the fact that, I don't know if everyone knows, but when COVID occurred, there were people with lower or lesser offenses that were released from jail who may not have otherwise been so. D felonies were one, and that probably was more in circuit court, but in district court, obviously people who had lower level offenses, we found other opportunities for them to get out, whether it was a straight release or whether they were able to be monitored, where they would call in twice a week. That's called monitored conditional release. There were also people who were able to go on home incarceration. And so that allowed people to be removed from the jail. I'm sure you all heard the news that COVID ran through the jail. We were losing lives. We had not only the people in the jail, but the deputies, the sheriffs, everyone was getting COVID. So it was very effective, and I think because we found that it was effective and that it did not affect the return of these folks, or they did not go out and commit more crimes, that we realized this was a good idea. We've got to have bail reform. We must support a manner in which people can be put on ROR or home incarceration or some lesser form of jail when they have lesser offenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin?
Yes, thank you. The COVID pandemic ensured one thing and underscored one thing, that sole reliance on the cash bail system is broken, period. Sole reliance on that is broken. There are a numerous numbers of alternatives that do work. Look, I've been doing this, practicing in a courtroom daily, in the trenches as a trial attorney for 18 and a half years. Here's what my experience shows. Number one, if someone is given an opportunity on home incarceration, they do not want to squander that opportunity. They will be present at all future court dates. They will obey what home incarceration tells them to do, and they will be back, and they will do what's right. The pandemic also showed us that surety bonds, something that wasn't used a lot in Jefferson County before the pandemic, Surety bonds work. Having a trusted loved one or family member sign a piece of paper and says, if Johnny doesn't come back to court, I'm on the hook for $5,000. Having your mom put a pen to paper for $5,000, that's a scary thing. And doggone it, she's going to make sure that you come back to court. So surety bonds work. Home incarceration works. And the other thing that works is knowing the statute, knowing the pretrial services report and the contents for every defendant that comes in front of you, and to set an appropriate, fair, and a reasonable bail for everyone that comes in front of you. That's what the pandemic taught.
Thank you very much. We'll start with the next question with you. And this question is, there's a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail in cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. And again, being in the trenches, I've seen it for 18 and a half years and then through the pandemic. What needs to be done is this. There needs to be docket control from the bench, from the judges, right? Because it is your courtroom. You control your docket. There is no reason for a case to be passed over and over and over again, 6, 7, 8 times. There is a 10-day date, and what essentially a 10-day date means is you can have on a felony charge, you can have your hearing, your probable cause hearing within 10 days. Now, I certainly understand that things come up, an officer's sick, there's other things going on, so sure, maybe a continuance or a past date may be warranted. But doggone it, docket control matters. Have a date, set it in stone, and have a hearing at that time. Here's the other thing, 3 words for a majority of cases: set or settle. That's how you control your docket. You either set it for trial and you go down that path as an attorney and as a prosecutor and as a defendant. You either set it for trial or you put your heads together and you settle the case that day. Set or settle equals docket control, and that's what has to be done. So victims don't have to come to court over and over and over again and risk losing their jobs. So defendants don't have to languish in Metro Corrections custody and risk their very lives being there. Docket control matters, and that buck stops with the judge, period.
Thank you. Judge Langford.
Yes, I absolutely agree that docket control matters. As you've heard, I was a prosecutor for 14 years and I've been your judge for 4 years. So that is 18 years that I have actually been a practicing attorney and or judge. I was a law clerk before that. But during that time, I have noticed over the years that our justice partners have been working diligently to make changes. And what you've heard from some of the other candidates is indeed that we do now want to know, why is it that this case needs to be continued? And sometimes it is a drug lab. Sometimes it is reaching out to a witness or victim because we never want them to be left out. Sometimes we need to get a video, and we've all talked about resources and staffing, and the video person may be out sick for 2 months. There are variables, but overall, the judges have worked together with the justice partners to ensure that we have made the court dates lesser. We are saying set or settle. We are saying we're holding defense attorneys to the line. We're holding prosecutors to the line saying this case has been on too long. This has to stop. I need to know why this case is being continued, and I will continue to hold the line as your judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question goes right back to you, and this is some in the legal community perceive district court as being part-time. Court only being held in the morning or in the afternoon. How can the perception that being a district court judge is a part-time position be resolved?
Thank you very much, and I know that rumor is out there. I think one of my judge partners agreed that everything you hear is not accurate. The judges all work very hard. We are hard workers now. We do currently have a 9 a.m. session and a 1 p.m. session in most of the courtrooms. However, as another judge stated, we are open and willing to have hearings at 9, at 1, trials at 9 or 1. if cases run over, which happens a lot. Next week, I know I have a traffic docket. It's going to be 156 cases. I don't even know where we're going to put the people, okay? But we're going to make it happen. We also learned during COVID, I had 100 people on a Zoom screen, and as you heard from one of the candidates, we didn't even know anything about Zoom before COVID happened. We had to adjust. We had to make changes. And upon doing that, we were able to handle these large caseloads and be able to do it in a timely manner. We are on call every 17 days, 24 hours. We do arraignment court. If my phone rings, it was ringing right now. If I wasn't standing here, I would answer my call to do a search warrant. So that is not accurate. We work very hard, and we want to open up more courts as soon as we get the resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Brown?
Thank you for this question. District court judges make about $119,000 a year. You better work full-time if you're earning that kind of money. If you're earning money from the taxpayers, you better work full-time. Now, here's the thing. We've heard about the dockets, 9 a.m., 1 p.m. docket. Those are usually done, and how do I know this? Because I'm practicing every day in these courtrooms. Those are usually done within about three or plus hours. Let's multiply that by 5 days a week. Let's say generously, that's 15 to 20 hours in court only for $119,000. There's been a lot of talk about specialty courts. You have to volunteer to preside over specialty courts. What are those? Drug court, mental health court, veterans treatment court. Those courts matter immensely to this community, but you've got to volunteer to preside over those courts. Drug court, for instance, since 2018, my opponent has not once presided over or volunteered over drug court, something that matters in this community. I pledge to you, right here, September the 22nd, I will volunteer to preside over drug courts, veterans treatment courts, mental health courts. Again, there was another question about getting out into the community. It's important to get into schools for juvenile justice reform. Get into the schools, meet these kids, talk to these kids. Make time for this community. Don't make time for yourself. You're a servant to these people, to this community, period.
Thank you very much, Division 6, Justin Brown, and Judge Lisa Langford. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Division 7, but only one candidate can make it this evening. Megan McDonald is unable to attend due to an unavoidable circumstances, and her opponent, Shannon Renee Favre, will be limited to 6 total minutes in the spirit of fairness. 1 minute for the intro and 5 for questions. I can do math. I had to look down.
That's okay.
Are we good?
We don't do math. It's okay.
Okay, great. I'm sorry.
Said lawyers don't do math. Come on.
I know, right? Writers don't either, so. Thank you. So 1 minute to introduce yourself, please.
Okay. I'm Shannon Favre. I'm running for Division 7. I have been raised to be a public servant. My family is police officers, lawyers, both sides of the family. I served in Peace Corps, and that's actually why I decided to become a lawyer, because I found the best way I could help people. You have a skill set, you use it for the community. I've been practicing law for the last 18 years, from traffic court to the U.S. Supreme Court. In that time, I've seen what a difference it makes to have a judge on the bench that knows what they're doing. I am running an open seat, and I haven't, like I said, practicing law for this long, and I've seen what the community needs. I go out every day. As everybody can tell you, they see me out someplace in Jefferson County every day. So you can tell me what you need, not what I need, what you need for the community, and I will give you that.
Thank you very much. Your first question. There's a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in district court, resulting in people languishing in jail and cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure that it is fair and equitable for all participants?
In all due fairness, the district court has always been overwhelmed. In 18 years of practice, we have seen that where things continued and continued and continued. It's gotten really bad in the last couple of years, be it for COVID or any other reason. I believe that our judges are trying to get caught up on the docket, but it is hard right now with we're not having enough social workers, not having enough clerks, but I know when I get there, I'll be there every day. I'm actually planning on running a homeless court, which you have to institute and have it to run it, but that would be on top of the other hours I'm already running. And so that's how I think we'll try to get things going faster, just have everybody in there all the time, and everybody here has promised to do that.
Wonderful, thank you. And some in the legal community perceive that district court as being part-time court, only being held in the morning or in the afternoon. How can the perception of being a district court judge as a part-time position be resolved?
Well, as I said, I'm going to institute another, it's a specialty court, it's called homeless court. They have them across the country. I've already looked in the funding on that, and there's federal funding. So that won't cost us any more money because it's already sitting there. So I'll be doing on top of the regular docket. I also, people have already said they would volunteer the homeless court. And I think that, like I said, all of us, we know how it looks in the community. That we know that they don't think we're working. So we need to make sure that they see us, be it in court or at an event like this or something else, so they can see what we're doing. Because otherwise, why would they vote for us?
Thank you. And what do you feel that the COVID-19 pandemic has taught the courts about bail reform?
As I stated before, it has shown that people don't have to be in jail. The statutes say that we should release them unless there's a reason to have them there, like if they're a threat to the community, if they're not going to come back. But we've seen that doesn't happen. Statistically, the same person is going to come back whether or not they're out on bail or not. So these same people, they're not a danger, so they shouldn't come back. You haven't been found guilty for anything. You should be able to go home and continue working and, help the society until you actually have a trial. Unless you're endangering anybody else, you should be out and be able to go home.
Thank you. What should judges do to make sure they don't work in such a bubble that they lose sight of the needs of the community?
Well, as we've said, we just have to be in the community. I know I lived in another country and I felt what it was like to be outside of that community. You have to be in the community, and I'm out every day. I was like that before I was running for office. I go everywhere, I go every festival, I go every event because I want to be involved. I want to see how to help people. Again, that's why I went to Peace Corps, to help people, and that's why I want to do this now. So you have to talk to people and see what they need. Otherwise, you can't help them.
Thank you. This is your last question. You mentioned the homeless court, but what other services or specialty courts does district court need to operate both more efficiently and equitably?
Well, we do need more staff, which means we need more funding from the legislature because people are not working for what they were getting paid. A lot of people, because I've filed bankruptcy for clients, I have represented people who are clerks. They don't. If they lose a paycheck, they're out of job because they're out of housing because what they get paid is not enough to survive on, and that's not right.
Thank you so much. Division 7, and this is Shannon Renee Favre. I appreciate you coming up. And again, Megan McDonald could not be here for circumstances unavoidable. We have passed the halfway mark, folks. We're doing pretty well. And next we have Division 9 coming up to the stage. And we have Caitlin Smith-Dean and Tanisha Ann Hickerson. Thank you, thank you. And we will again go in alphabetical order for 1 minute introduction. That means that Caitlin Smith-Dean, you will be first with 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, my name is Caitlin Smith-Dean. My husband and I moved here about a decade ago on active duty military orders, and we decided to make Louisville our permanent home. I have always wanted to be a judge. I have always felt a sense of duty to public service, and I served as a public defender before opening my own private practice here about 6 years ago, and I look forward to answering further questions and having the community get to know me a little bit better. Thank you for hosting this evening.
Thank you. Tanisha Ann Hickerson, you get 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Judge Tanisha Ann Hickerson, running for re-election, and I am born and raised right here in Louisville, Kentucky. Proud graduate of where we stand right now, Louisville Central High School, where I graduated valedictorian with my almost 1-year-old on my hip. I'm also happy to have been earlier this year, inducted into the Central High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame with that now daughter who's 25 next to me and the other 1-year-old I have on my hip. So if anything, I do know about trials and tribulations and how to overcome those things. I come from humble beginnings, but also I come from a strong background of education and hard work. I serve in our community as the chair of the Criminal Justice Commission. I work with an opportunity network, a network opportunity about reincarceration after rehabilitation. I work with the Louisville Central High School program in various aspects, and particularly I also work with the law and government because I came through that same program. Other things that I do is try to mentor through through YMCA Black Achievers Program, and I can talk to you more about all those things that I bring to court because I bring legal experience and real world experience. Hope to earn your vote.
Thank you. I'm going to start the first question with you. And what has the COVID-19 pandemic taught us is possible about bail reform?
Well, I definitely think it catapulted our need for bail reform, even though I do think Jefferson County had that on the horizon. I like that the legislature, actually the Supreme Court, was able to give us additional administrative releases, and those are things that can be released before, individuals who can be released before it even comes to a judge. But at the same time, I do think it made us make sure that we are revisiting and really reiterating what it takes to have somebody reappear to court, because those are the factors that we are taking into consideration. Whether or not you're a flight risk, a danger to the community, or likelihood to reoffend. So as we look at those things, and we do have a cash bail system, we have to say, what are our other alternatives? Can we do home incarceration? Can we do court monitoring service? Can we say that our new text system and messaging system will help reassure that people come back to court? And the more that those technological advances and the legislature and the Supreme Court and all of us have worked together to make bail reform possible, but really it's about making sure that people have the means and the wish and understand the importance of coming back to court. So being in that and part of that it came full circle and catapulted with the pandemic. I was proud to be a judge who sat in those courtrooms and really got to stress the importance of seeing people return to court. I think the bail projects and different programs like that also does help. People can look at those numbers, and as much as they may sometimes get a black eye, they've actually been very positive as helping people return to court. So anything that we can continue to do to make sure that bail has not been what it's historically been, which is an impediment to brown, black, and poor people, I think we need to keep moving in that direction.
Thank you. Caitlin?
I think that COVID and bail reform, again, as some of the other candidates have kind of, to reiterate what they've said, don't necessarily go hand in hand. As far as bail reform goes, that is more of a legislative issue. COVID has definitely taught the court system quite a bit, especially with regards to innovation and technology. And it's taught us that we have the capacity to learn and make the court system a lot more efficient if we have the funding, and even if we don't have the funding, if we put our heads together, to use technology. We used Zoom, and our efficiency levels went up. And we have the capacity to learn new things, to invest in new projects. And I think that COVID definitely taught the legal community and the community that works in the courthouse every day that we are able to do that.
Thank you. The next question goes right back to you. And some in the legal community perceive district court as being part-time court, only being held in the morning or afternoon. How can the perception that being a district court judge is a part-time position be resolved?
I think that district court, it's a full-time job. Absolutely. There's definitely the perception that it is a part-time job, both within the legal community, I think, and the general public. And I think that as a private practitioner, I know that my my job never stops. I think that if you want to help facilitate any type of positive change within the system, you have to be willing to put in the man hours to work, to invest yourself in new projects, in new community works, getting people involved in things, in new ideas, the judges, getting everyone involved together in grant programs, making sure that the community sees that the judges aren't just working part-time, but they're there full-time, and making it a public appearance.
Thank you. Judge Hickerson.
Well, first I would say come on down to the Hall of Justice and see what's going on down there, because it is full-time and it is popping. We do have a 9 o'clock court. We have a 1 o'clock court, and whether or not you're assigned to one of those things, you may actually hold hearings at the other time. So I may have, like this morning I had 9 a.m. docket, and I would have loved to travel to Frankfurt, because I just got appointed to the Kentucky Justice Commission on Mental Health, but I didn't have time to do that because actually my court ran late. Luckily I had a Zoom option, because not only does holding court either one or both of those dockets, because there's a lot of times we actually do still cover both. There's a lot of times the other time is reserved for your hearings and your trials, and to help out your other colleagues who also may have other things that conflict. But the fact that, I know it's a perception, I think one of my colleagues said earlier that, it's a perception because it's just not quite accurate. We would love to do more and open more courts, but we are part of a system of judicial partners where our clerks don't get paid enough. We're competing with, no offense, Target, I love Target. We're competing with, Target, we're losing people in our sheriff's departments who come in and help keep our courts safe. So, and then on top of that, our prosecutors and our county attorneys, they need to get paid more too. So it's a little bit of a cycle of things that actually need to happen, so the perception doesn't just fall on judges, but it really is something that can help our community as a whole. Because the fact that any time that we do have those hindrances to coming into the courthouse, it hinders not a case, but a person. And I think it's important that we are able to fully and really effectively operate a court system. So one thing that we're still learning coming out of the pandemic is what can we do to continue to move our court system forward. Zoom, off-docket discovery, which we also help with off-docket. Whether or not the default judgments that come into our lap and we work on in our office are getting done as efficiently as possible, such as e-filing and things like that. So anything, like I said, I've had people, especially some of my Central High School students here, that come and sit next to us in the courtroom. They see how busy it is, and we are continuing to do that. So again, it's not a part-time job, it's a full-time job. After-hour search warrants, after-hour emergency custody orders. I could go on, but it is a privilege to serve in that high capacity and high functioning job.
Thank you. The next question will come right back to you, and to follow that up, I know you know it's coming. There's a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail and cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
I don't want to start with a disagreement, but I will. Because we worked hard to actually get that backlog of cases down. And so I understand that's another perception, but between the county attorney's office, the public defender's office, individual private defense attorneys, and other judges that actually sat in certain dockets to help get that backlog of cases resolved. And I will also say that a lot of the backlog of cases were actually related to more traffic or lower misdemeanor offenses, to which people were not sitting in jail on those backlog cases. Nonetheless, I still feel like our court system could be moving forward in a more efficient manner, to where those who are in jail for longer times than may be necessary are really getting before judges, getting with attorneys, getting a public defender attorney appointed to them, so there could be alternatives should their case continue to take longer in the court system, which is something that does happen. Justice is not always swift, nor should it be, because sometimes swift justice is not right justice, and people don't maybe rush into decisions of taking pleas and deals they shouldn't take because they need to get back to work. So there are different factors that need to go into whether or not we're truly pushing our cases along in the pursuit of true justice, and so that everyone gets that opportunity to be heard and that these cases can be fully evaluated.
Thank you. Caitlin.
I think perhaps this relates a little bit back to the question you asked previously, but I think that maybe instigating a specific courtroom that just deals with the backlog of maybe traffic cases, a specific judge to deal with those cases would be a good solution. Designating the older or the oldest cases, the nonviolent cases, and having a judge set aside specifically to deal with those. If we have the number of judges that we do in this county, then surely we have the resources and the time available to have a judge sitting to deal with that backlog of cases.
Thank you very much. Again, this was Division 9 with Caitlin Smith-Dean and Judge Tanisha Ann Hickerson. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your time.
And next up, we will have Division number 10. Yep. Yeah, you can leave your microphone right there on the podium. Thank you. Again, we will be saving Division 8 till the very end to accommodate
on the first floor. Anybody that knows the Hall of Justice knows Robert. And that is the simple, easiest thing, is just being a part of our communities and knowing our community.
Thank you. Mr. Garrison.
Well, I think the first thing we need judges who are qualified and judges who represent a fair cross-section of our community. And more importantly, one of the things that really frustrates me about judges is, I want to ask you a question. Who do judges work for?
The community?
The community. So why are there meetings behind closed doors? There might be a time and place for a closed door meeting, but judges work for the community. There needs to be transparency. We need to know when our judges are representing us as a community, what are they deciding on dockets, docket controls, and others? And that's very important. And we need judges who remember they work for Louisville.
Thank you very much. Again, this was Division 10, and Christian Garrison, who appears on the ballot, is our Christian Garrison, and Judge Sarah Michael Nicholson. Thank you so much. You're recording them still, right? Okay. Thank you. Next, we'll have Division 15, and I'm hearing that some of our live feed is not working, but the good news is we are recording all of this, so it will eventually end up on our website, and so everyone will have the opportunity to share far and wide. So Division number 15, we have Mary Jude Wolford, and Claudette Patton. I apologize for stumbling over your name. Thank you very much. And alphabetical order says that we will start with Claudette Patton with a 1-minute introduction.
Thank you to the Louisville Bar Association and to the Courier-Journal and all of our supporting sponsors for having this judicial forum for not only the audience but also for the public through live stream. I am Claudette Patton, and I am running for District Judge Division 15. And I respectfully ask each one of you personally and individually here tonight and who's watching live stream for your vote on November the 8th. I am a hometown local girl. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a 3-time graduate of the University of Louisville. I am a wife, a mother, and a glamour to a gorgeous 2-year-old grandson. But more than that, I am a lawyer with 3 decades of experience, which is what you want to know about tonight. I have a broad spectrum of experience as an attorney and as an educator. And I believe that I bring a depth of knowledge and wisdom to the bench if I am elected to your district court judge. My experience is in district court, circuit court.
I'm sorry, but your minute is up. I apologize. Your minute is up.
Oh, I am so sorry.
That's okay. Thank you
so
very much. Mary Jude Wolford, 1 minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, good. Wonderful. 1 minute.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mary Jude Wolford. I'm running for the open seat in Division 15. The reason I'm running is because I believe it is absolutely essential that we put qualified, experienced candidates on the bench in district court. Part of my experience and qualifications is that I have actually worked extensively in district court. I was an assistant Jefferson County attorney under Michael Connell from 2013 to 2020. So for 7 years in the courtroom every day, handling thousands of different cases, all kinds of different scenarios, different crimes convicted, I was in guardianship and other courts. In addition, I've been an attorney for over 30 years. So I have been in the U.S. Attorney's Office, family court, private practice, even at the law school. I'm proud to be endorsed by Citizens for Better Judges, by LSURG, by Fairness, and by 10 of the biggest labor unions in the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our first question will go to you.
Okay.
What has COVID taught the courts about bail reform?
I think that one possibly good thing that happened from the whole COVID pandemic was it forced us to address issues with bail reform. I attended a different, Judge Nicholson was not a speaker, but I attended a different forum at LBA about bail reform, and it was Michael Connell was there, Tom Wine, Sadiqa Reynolds, Judge Buckner, Leo. It was a lot of people all. And one thing that really stuck in my head from that was that they had hard data that showed that people with nonviolent offenses were coming back to court. They were not reoffending, and they were coming back to court at the same rate as people who had posted bail. And we need to take that and move forward and allow greater bail reform. It's going to take a lot to get to the federal system where it's either you're in or you're out with conditions, because we would need a lot more prosecutors and a lot more defense attorneys and probably a lot more judges. But at least it forced us to take a look, and we've got the data, and we can use that to go forward.
Thank you. Claudette Patton, same question.
I think COVID brought forth issues that we already knew existed, but we weren't talking about with pretrial justice. We know that in pretrial justice that we need to be looking at the safety of 3 different areas. Of course, our community safety, the safety of the victim, and what we often overlook is the safety of the person who is charged with a crime and who is incarcerated. And during COVID, with the overcrowding of our Justice Center, it was brought to the front page news that those who were charged were being harmed at a very large rate by COVID. So we were not taking care of the safety of those who were incarcerated. And I think COVID brought that 3rd prong of safety to the community to the forefront.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with you. Some of the legal community perceive district court as being part-time, court only being held in the morning or in the afternoon. How can the perception that being a district court judge is a part-time position be resolved?
Thank you. Well, I think it's a perception. I was a clerk to a federal judge, so I have worked inside of the court system, and I can guarantee you that being inside of the courtroom and presiding and working in the court system is not a part-time job. I think the perception comes from the fact that in district court and state court, you used to see the judges in the courtroom all the time. Everything was dealt with in the courtroom, and that has changed over the last few years. District court is paperwork driven, and judges are doing more paperwork, so their work is behind the scenes, not always out front in the courtroom. And then with the lack of staff due to COVID and other reasons in district court, judges are required to do more of that paperwork that's behind the scenes. But I honestly do not know of any judge, sitting judge, that works part-time. It is a full-time job, and I have the work ethic to be that full-time judge on the bench.
Thank you.
I would agree it's a full-time job, and the perception is that they're not there if they're not on the bench. I can't believe we made it through, what are we, the 8th pair to be up here, and no one has made this analogy. I'm so excited, my analogy is still sound, that it reminds me of school teachers, where if that teacher is not in the classroom in front of the class, that they're not working. I think the judges have a lot of things that they do out of the sight of the public. Judge Nicholson mentioned things that she had been doing. And also, I know, no one's talked about the probate docket. You have to prep a probate docket. You have to prep a small claims and civil docket. So you don't just walk in cold and know what's going on. And I know a lot of the judges currently will prep their criminal dockets. One point I wanted to make, speaking of criminal dockets, is that of the 17 seats in district court, 12 of them are largely criminal. So it's so important that we recognize what's going on in the criminal system, that we get people with criminal experience. 10 courts fully devoted to criminal, plus arraignment where bond is set, plus juvenile, which is just a whole separate issue with criminal charges. So that's just another thing that the judges are doing out of the sight, because juvenile is not open. So
Thank you. And that follow-up question that we've all heard many times as well is there is a backlog of cases waiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail and cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
it is my understanding that we don't have the backlog that we had that was created during COVID, but this is one where I think my experience would really be helpful because I'm so familiar with what's happening in district court that I think I could anticipate potential problems. For example, do we need a translator? Is that translator going to be available next time? Are the witnesses going to be available next time? Can we make sure of that before we just randomly assign this date and move it forward? So I think things like that can really be helpful with at least moving cases forward and especially giving priority to incarcerated defendants.
Thank you.
The National Center for State Courts published an article recently for state courts giving 12 steps to combat the backlog from the pandemic and to tackle the surge of new cases that courts are going to have. And if you go to that article and you look at it, those 12 things, our district court judges are doing all of them. So I think that our court system, and even though they're short-staffed, they're making a great effort, and they should be applauded for not having the backlog that people seem to perceive that we have. I think one of the things that we can do continually for managing a docket is making sure that our self-represented clients are presented with community resources and self-help guides that can help them, and that we make sure that we reduce the intimidation of walking into court and having representation.
Thank you. And the next question will go to you as well. What other services or specialty courts does district court need to operate both more efficiently and equitably? So,
well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The three main specialty courts that we have are Veterans Court, the Drug Court, and Mental Health Court, according to the AOC. And we, I believe, have recently started the Mental Health Court, which I think is going to then be combined. I think mental health and our Drug Court and Veterans Court, they overlap because many of our victims and our people who have been charged with crimes, they have a combination of all three of those things. So I think a more efficient way can be that all three of those courts are working together and communicating together to make it better for each person that volunteers to go through that court.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we have the specialty courts because district court provides such a wonderful opportunity to help people who just need help to get back on the right track rather than to go to jail. Even though, misdemeanors are defined by a prison sentence of 365 days or less. Anything more is a DCBA felony and goes up to circuit court. But just because they're in there and charged with misdemeanors, if the problems are related in mental health or they're grounded in addiction, or I agree with my opponent that many times these all overlap, especially in Veterans Court. So the fact that we have the specialty courts is fabulous. I would love to see a restorative justice court established, particularly for young offenders, not even just in juvenile court, but just young offenders who are charged with crimes. A lot of like right when they age out from the foster care system, and they're just on their own and they're adrift. And we saw a lot of those kind of cases in district court. I think there's a lot more help that we can do.
Thank you very much, both of you. And this is, Division 15 with Mary Jude Wolford and Claudette Patton. I appreciate you coming tonight. Now we are going to finish the evening with Division 8. And coming on up to the stage is Karen Faulkner and Jessica Stone. Thank you both for coming out this evening. We made it, everybody. We've got one more division to get through without any technical difficulties, and I think we can do it. So wonderful. Thank you for coming, and alphabetical order says that Karen Faulkner will start us off with her 1-minute introduction.
Thank you. My name is Karen Faulkner. I'm running for District Court Judge Division 8. I have 17 years experience in the court system. I started my career as a public defender where I was there for 6.5 years working with both juveniles and adults before I opened my own private practice. In my private practice, I focus on criminal and family law, and I still work as conflict counsel for the Louisville Metro Public Defender, the Department of Public Advocacy, and the Federal Defender. I also spend additional time serving the community by offering pro bono expungements out of my office, working for legal aid. I'm a former adjunct professor at the Brandeis School of Law, and I work as a co-coach for Manuel's mock trial team. I'm a mother. I'm someone with lots of experience and the right kind of experience, and I'm looking to progressing our courts forward. So I'd ask that you vote fairness, vote progress, vote Faulkner November 8th.
Thank you. Jessica Stone.
Hi, my name is Jessica Stone, and I'm running for District Court Judge in Division 8. And I'm running because I'm frustrated. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's based on a lot of different things. First, being a prosecutor. Just take a look at the national news. How many times have we seen Louisville in the last few years? That in addition to, well, just at the end of last year, we surpassed Chicago per capita murders. So after that, I need to tell you that I'm frustrated because I've been a litigant and a victim in the system myself. And you know, you walk into a courtroom, you've paid an attorney, you found childcare, you've taken off work, and you're nervous, you're concerned, and yeah, after the 6th, 7th, 8th time, 10th time you're there, you are then frustrated and you've lost hope. So I plan to bring all of those experiences to the bench and vote Stone on November 8th. Vote Stone for safer Louisville, and vote Stone as a rock-solid choice.
Thank you. We'll start our first question with you, and these will all sound familiar to everybody by now, but there is a backlog of cases awaiting adjudication in our district courts, resulting in people languishing in jail in cases that are delayed over and over again. What can be done to make district court more efficient and still ensure it is fair and equitable for all participants?
So first, about the delays. I do think it's been mentioned before, and I completely, wholeheartedly agree. Set trials. It's as simple as that. If something's being delayed, that is all something that can be addressed in the pretrial process. So set the trial. It happened to me recently. The trial was set on the first pretrial conference. Sure enough, we exchanged all discovery, and the trial was set 2 months later. It's not brain surgery, and literally, I can't remember the last time I had a full-on trial in district court. They're just not set. And I'm in there every day, and I don't see the trials. So more trials.
Thank you. Karen Faulkner?
Thank you. So the backlog of cases really came with COVID, where we shut down court for several weeks and then had difficulty changing our system. I do think that at this point, we've done a pretty good job getting things back on track. But what we don't need to do is rush our cases, not look at the cases with a close eye, and not respect the rights of everyone that comes into the courtroom. Everyone that comes into the courtroom has constitutional rights, or they should be representative as a victim. One thing that we can do to stop people languishing in jails is look at releasing people from custody. I serve on the Jail Policy Committee as the private bar member. We work together with many partners to support things like the Bail Project and the Community Bail Fund and other alternative ways than having people remain in custody. And that's what we need to be doing, is not having people incarcerated while their cases are moving through the system.
Thank you. For our next question, I'll start with you. I'm sorry, Karen Faulkner, I should have specified. And some in the legal community perceive district court as being part-time, court only being held in the morning or in the afternoon. How can the perception that being a district court judge is a part-time position be resolved?
Well, as Justice Brandeis said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So I think one of the things we need to be focused on is transparency and making sure people understand what's going on down in district court. I do think that there are times that you will come to court and not find judges that are not being available. I absolutely will pledge to not be that. But I know that many people who have already spoken have talked about the fact that in court, just the dockets, that's not all of what a district court judge does. And it's very important for maybe the community to see what the job entails, what happens when someone's on call and there are emergency calls taken, or when you're preparing for a docket, I believe, as Jude Wolford talked about. We need to be opening the court system, and we need to be allowing people to see what is there. And we also need to be able to be available to the community, be there full-time, so that attorneys can find us and so that the community can find us, and make sure that everyone understands it is a full-time position.
Thank you. Jessica Stone.
Well, I'm there every day, and I've been there every day going on 6 years. And when I first started, we had an morning docket and an afternoon docket, and that was the same judge. They seem to get their work done that is off docket at other times. And I will tell you, I'm a prosecutor now, and I am not overworked. So I would absolutely open up, if I'm scheduled for morning, I want an afternoon docket too. Bring me the cases, let's get through these cases. Maybe, yes, pay close attention to each and every one of them, because that's how you listen and that's how you make the right decision. However, we can take on more work.
Thank you. Next question will go with you. What has COVID taught us about bail reform?
So it taught us to work within the law that is standing. I mean, that's what a judge does, and that's what we were forced to do in COVID. We used to see full cash bonds consistently across the board, and that was the norm. I had heard of those things like unsecured bonds and secured bonds, they just weren't in use. So during COVID, we took advantage of those tools and then learned, wow, this is actually way more useful. We don't have to hold a person in custody for this petty theft. And really, they shouldn't, I mean, they shouldn't have never been held in custody for a petty theft, right? So it really opened our eyes to be able to learn how we can work within the law that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. COVID actually taught us so much. I heard many of the other candidates talking about this. We learned that many people with low-level offenses should be released and will return to court, that we don't have to hold everyone in jail just to move a case forward, just to get the cases completed. We need to stop using our jails to house the poor. Most people that are incarcerated are poor, mentally ill, or drug addicted. And what we learned is that people would return to court if they were released, and we could use the jails for what they're actually meant for, which is to hold people that are a danger to our community and that we are dealing with the violent crimes.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with you. What would you change, if anything, about the role of a district court judge?
So I got into this race because I have spent my entire career helping one person at a time. I do believe that district court judges are leaders in our community. Leaders that should be looking at how we can change the system, how we can make it better. I would like to see more treatment services offered in the court system. I would like to see more services available through our jail partners, more services available through our county attorneys, through our specialty courts. But simply, the courthouse itself can be a mecca for connecting people with the services and the resources they need. We need to be finding out why people are coming to court. What is the reason that they keep rotating through? Is it because they can't get a job? Can we help them find a job because there's a whole list of employers who will employ convicted felons? Is it because they keep having the cycle of addiction? Can we put them in a treatment facility? So looking at the why, examining these cases so that we can stop the recidivism, stop the cycle, and have everyone that comes through the district court system be benefited from the process.
Thank you. Jessica Stone?
I would like to hear from all our justice partners and community members. Maybe not all of them, but representatives from each. And so that would require to hold regular meetings that would be open to the public, talk about transparency. I know recently I was at a conference and they're trying to reform the juvenile system in New Jersey. And in their panels, let's just call it a panel, it's a round table and you hear from judges, attorneys, but also the juvenile that has been through the system. So asking that juvenile, the judge that wanted to reduce the number of conditions, they learned that juvenile wants conditions. They want to be held to expectations. And that's how you learn. You learn by asking questions and staying curious. And that was told to me a long time ago by a very Julie Hardesty, who was the matriarch of our office at the county attorney, and she would always say that. You stay curious, and I think that's definitely something that a good judge will do.
Wonderful, thank you. And that is all for us this evening. Division 8, Karen Faulkner and Jessica Stone, thank you so much for coming and finishing out our evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for hanging in there with us for the full 2 hours, and all of this will live on the Courier-Journal website, so you will be able to go back and view anything you've missed or rewatch a specific division that maybe you're still undecided about. And I wanted one last reminder, judicial races are nonpartisan races, which means you cannot rely on your party lines when you walk into the polls. You have to be educated and understand who you're voting for, and I really encourage you to use the Courier-Journal as that resource to do so. Thank you so much. Have a great night.